Hello, my dear English learners. Welcome back to Native Flow English.
My name is Natasha, and today we are going to talk about something very important for English learners. How can you improve your English without memorizing? Many learners think that the only way to get better at English is by memorizing long lists of words or grammar rules, but that often feels boring and stressful. In today's episode, I will show you how you can learn naturally, in a way that feels easier and more enjoyable. And if you are new here, welcome. In this channel, the English Pod community, we upload new English learning episodes every day so you can improve your English step by step. Let's start with a little story. A few years ago, I had a student named Daniel. He worked in an office and wanted to improve his English for international meetings. At first, he bought a big vocabulary book and tried to memorize 10 new words every night. The problem was he forgot most of them after a week. He felt frustrated and thought maybe he was not smart enough to learn English. But the truth was, the problem was not him, it was the method. When I asked him to stop memorizing and instead start using the words in real sentences, his English improved quickly. He practiced saying things like, "I need to arrange a meeting with my client," or, "Could you please send me the file tomorrow?" These were useful sentences he could use at work, and because he used them often, he remembered them naturally. This shows us one key idea. You don't have to memorize. You need to use English in real situations. Think about how you learned your first language as a child. Nobody gave you a notebook with words to memorize. You listened to your parents, your teachers, your friends. You repeated what they said, and slowly you understood more and more. English can be learned in the same way, even as an adult. For example, if you are cooking, you can say to yourself, "I am cutting the vegetables," or "I am boiling the rice." You are not memorizing words, you are living with the language. Another example comes from my friend Emma. She is from Spain, and when she moved to London, she wanted to speak fluently. She did not carry flashcards everywhere. Instead, she made a rule. Every day she would speak to at least one new person in English. Sometimes it was the shopkeeper, sometimes a neighbor, sometimes a colleague. In the beginning, she made mistakes, but she kept going. After 6 months, her confidence grew, so much that she could give a presentation at work. She told me later that the secret was not memorizing, but practicing in real life again and again. So what can you do right now to learn without memorizing? One powerful way is through stories. When you listen to stories, you hear words in context. That means you understand how they are really used, not just as a list in a dictionary. Let me tell you a short story. Last week, I met a man named Mr. Rahman at a community event. He told me how he learned English by reading simple storybooks every evening. He said, "When I read a story about a farmer and his family, I saw words like plow, harvest, and field. I didn't try to memorize them. But when I read the story 3 times, I understood them naturally. Later, when I talked about food prices with my friends, the word harvest came to my mind without effort. This is how the brain works best. Through repetition and meaning, not through force." Another tip is to shadow conversations. Shadowing means listening to a native speaker and then repeating what they say, almost like an echo. You don't need to memorize, you just listen and copy. For example, if you hear someone say, "Could you help me with this task?" You repeat it in the same way. After doing this many times, those sentences become part of your memory. My student Yais. Aisha used this method every morning while walking to work. She listened to short dialogues on her phone, repeated them aloud, and soon she could use the same phrases in her office without thinking too much. You can also connect English with your daily life. For example, if you are married, you can practice with your husband or wife. Imagine you are planning dinner. Instead of speaking in your native language, try saying in English, "Shall we cook chicken tonight?" Or, "Can you bring the plates, please?" This way, you are practicing naturally, without sitting down to memorize words. The key idea here is simple. Stop thinking of English as something you study only in books. Start treating it as something you live with. If you surround yourself with English through stories, conversations, and daily activities, your brain will remember words and phrases naturally. And the best part is, you will feel less pressure and more joy while learning. Let's continue. Another way to improve English without memorizing is by asking simple questions in your daily life. Let me share the story of Peter. Peter is a shop owner and he wanted to practice English with his customers. Instead of trying to learn difficult grammar, he decided to ask simple questions every day. When someone came to buy bread, he would say, "How are you today?" Or, "Do you want a small bag or a big bag?" These were short, real-life questions, and after asking them many times, he became very comfortable. He didn't memorize the sentences. He used them so often that they became natural. The same thing happened with Sarah, a teacher who was learning English. She used to write down long word lists, but she found them boring. So instead, she started describing her daily activities in English, even when she was alone. For example, when she prepared breakfast, she would say, "I am spreading butter on the bread," or "I am making tea." At first, it felt a little strange, but after some time, she realized her English became faster and more automatic. This is because she was connecting the language with her actions. Another great tip is learning through repetition, but not in the way of memorizing. Let me explain. My neighbor James reads one short article in English every night. He does not try to remember every word. Instead, he reads the same article 3 times. The first time, he just tries to understand the main idea. The second time, he notices some new words. The third time, those words already feel familiar. Without memorizing, he is learning naturally because he sees the same words again and again in context. We can also use conversations with friends or colleagues. For example, David and his wife practice English together at home. Every evening, they choose one topic to talk about, like shopping, traveling, or planning the weekend. They only spend 10 minutes on it, but they use English during that time. David told me that after 1 month, he could speak more easily because he was using the language in real conversations, not just reading it in books. Sometimes people ask, "Me, Natasha, how can I remember grammar without memorizing the rules?" The answer is simple. You practice the patterns. For example, if you want to practice the past tense, you can tell a short story about yesterday. Imagine you are speaking with your friend John. You can say, "Yesterday I went to the market. I bought some apples. I met Mr. Brown there." By telling small stories about your own life, you learn the grammar naturally. You don't have to sit and memorize. Past tense means add ed. You just use it again and again, and your brain will remember. I also want to share the example of Anna. She is a nurse and her schedule is very busy. She thought she had no time for English, but she started a simple habit. Every night before sleeping, she thought about her day in English. She would say to herself, "Today I helped a patient. I gave him some medicine. Then I spoke with the doctor." This small habit of reviewing her day helped her improve her speaking and grammar without memorizing any rule book. Another useful method is practicing with objects around you. For example, look around your room. You can say, "This is a chair. The chair is near the table. The table is brown. All right, let's go deeper into this topic together. Many English learners think they must spend hours memorizing lists of vocabulary or grammar rules, but you can actually grow your English step by step through your daily life. Let's look at some more practical and simple stories of people who improved their English without depending on memorization. One example is Robert, a father of 2 children. He wanted to learn English to help his kids with their schoolwork. Instead of memorizing difficult words from textbooks, he began reading their simple homework stories aloud with them. For example, when the story was about a family picnic, he would read it with his children and then ask questions like, "What did the family eat at the picnic?" Or, "Where did they go?" By doing this, Robert was practicing real English in context, and his children also enjoyed learning with him. He didn't try to memorize the words separately, but he remembered them naturally through the story and the activity. Let's take another example. Jennifer is a housewife who wanted to improve her English because her relatives often visited from another country. She started speaking English while doing household chores. When she was washing clothes, she would say, "I am putting the clothes in the machine. I am pressing the button. The water is running." When she was cooking, she would say, "I am peeling the potatoes. I am cutting the onions. I am frying the vegetables." She didn't sit down to memorize the verbs peel, cut, fry. She learned them naturally because she used them in real daily actions. Michael, a university student, had another interesting method. He studied English by talking to himself while walking to class. For example, as he walked across the campus, he would say quietly, "I am walking to the library. The sun is shining. There are many students here. I see a group of people playing football." He was not memorizing. He was observing his surroundings and describing them in English. After a few weeks, he noticed he could describe almost anything without thinking too much. His English improved because he used the language in real life. Laura, a school teacher, improved her English by writing small daily journals. Every night, she wrote 5 or 6 sentences about her day. She would write things like, "Today I taught mathematics. My students were active. During lunch, I sat with my colleague and talked about the lesson plans. In the evening, I went shopping." By writing short sentences, she learned how to use tenses and new words naturally. She didn't try to memorize grammar, but she learned by practicing. Now let's think about conversations with friends. David and his old school friend Thomas used to meet once a week for tea. Instead of speaking in their native language, they agreed to practice English for 15 minutes each time. At first, their sentences were simple, such as, "How was your day? What did you eat? Did you go anywhere?" But slowly they became more confident. After some months, they could talk about bigger topics like work, family responsibilities, and even future plans. They never sat with a vocabulary book. They only practiced together in real conversations. Emma, who worked in an office, had a habit of practicing English while writing messages. Instead of sending messages in her own language to her colleague James, she started writing simple English sentences like, "I will be late today," or "Please bring the files." James replied in English too. This practice helped both of them improve. They were not memorizing, they were using the language for communication. Sometimes people think learning English requires big study sessions, but actually small habits can be more powerful. For example, Olivia, a young mother, used English when speaking with her little daughter. Every morning she would say in English, "Wake up, it is time for school. Please brush your teeth, put on your shoes. Let's go." At first, her daughter only listened, but after some time, the daughter started repeating the sentences. Both of them improved without memorizing anything. Another example is John, a farmer. He did not have time to study with books, but he wanted to learn English to talk with buyers in the market. He practiced by describing his farm in English. While working, he would say, "I am feeding the cows. I am cleaning the barn. I am planting seeds. The plants are growing." This simple way helped him remember the words he needed for his daily life. Learning without memorizing also works in group settings. Let's look at Sophia and her family. Every Sunday evening, her family sat together for dinner. They made a small rule. Each person had to say one thing in English about their week. Sophia would say, "I finished a big project at work." Her husband would say, "I went to the bank and paid the bills." Her son would say, "I played football with my friends." These short sentences gave them practice in real contexts. Slowly, their English improved as a family. Another way is practicing questions and answers. For example, Richard, who was studying engineering, practiced English with his classmate William. They prepared simple questions about their studies. Richard asked, "When is the exam?" William answered, "The exam is next week." Richard asked, "What subject do you like most?" William answered, "I like physics." Through this practice, they used English naturally. They never forced themselves to memorize, but they remembered the sentences because they practiced them often. Now let me tell you about Caroline. She was learning English because her husband often traveled abroad for business. She wanted to be able to speak when she traveled with him. Caroline practiced by telling stories about her childhood in English. She told simple stories like, "When I was young, I lived in a small town. I played with my school friends every afternoon. We ran in the fields and climbed trees." By telling these stories, she practiced past tense naturally. She didn't need to memorize grammar charts. She just used the language. Daniel, a young boy, practiced English with his school friends during playtime. Instead of playing in silence, they used simple English words during their games. They said things like, "You run here, I will go there, pass the ball." Without memorizing, they learned many action verbs because they used them during play. Maria improved her English with her neighbor Alice. They met every morning for a walk. During the walk, they agreed to speak in English. They talked about the weather, their families, or what they would cook that day. For example, Maria said, "I will make soup today." And Alice replied, "I will make rice and chicken." These conversations gave them daily practice and built their confidence. Practicing English without memorizing also works with simple shopping experiences. Thomas, for example, practiced at the grocery store. When he picked up an apple, he said to himself, "This is an apple. The apple is red. I will buy 3 apples." When he was at the counter, he tried to ask in English, "How much is this?" Or, "Can I pay with cash?" Slowly, these short sentences became part of his memory. Catherine, who was a nurse, improved her English at work by speaking simple sentences with her colleagues. She would say, "I need this report," or "Please call the doctor." At first it was difficult, but with repetition, her English became smoother. She realized that she was not memorizing phrases. She was using them in real situations. Christopher learned English by teaching his younger brother. He taught him colors, shapes, and numbers in English. He would say, "This is a red ball, that is a blue pen. Count with me, 1, 2, 3. While teaching, Christopher also practiced himself. Both brothers improved together without memorization. Henry, a taxi driver, practiced English with his passengers. When a passenger entered his car, he would say, "Where do you want to go?" Or, "Do you want the window open?" These were simple sentences, but he repeated them many times each day. Because of this, his English improved quickly, even without memorizing. Rachel, a grandmother, practiced English with her grandchildren by telling bedtime stories. She would tell simple stories in English, such as, "A little boy went to the park. He played on the swing. He saw a bird." Her grandchildren enjoyed listening, and Rachel practiced speaking English naturally. Ethan, who worked in a bakery, practiced English with customers. He would say, "Do you want bread? Do you want cake? How many pieces do you want?" These short sentences helped him learn the vocabulary of his job without memorization. Natalie, who was preparing for a job interview, practiced English by speaking with her husband every night. They pretended it was an interview. Her husband asked, "Why do you want this job?" She answered, "I want this job because I am hardworking." He asked, "What are your skills?" She answered, "I can organize tasks and manage people." By practicing real questions, she learned the vocabulary. Let me tell you about William, who worked in a hardware shop. William did not like memorizing vocabulary lists. Instead, he practiced English by naming the items in his shop. He would say, "This is a hammer. That is a nail. These are screws. This is a wooden plank." By repeating these sentences during his work, he became more confident in using words that were important for his job. He learned because he connected English directly with the objects around him. Now think about Lucy, a student in high school. Lucy wanted to practice English, but she felt shy speaking in front of others. She started practicing by talking with her best friend Hannah during lunch break. They chose one topic every day. One day they talked about school subjects. Another day they talked about what they wanted to do on the weekend. Hannah asked questions like, "What homework do you have?" And Lucy answered, "I have to study for a math test." This helped both of them use English naturally. Paul is another example. He is a driver. While he was driving, he often described the things he saw. He would say, "The road is busy. A man is crossing the street. A child is holding a balloon. The traffic light is red. By describing everything around him, he practiced English in real time. He did not write down lists, but his vocabulary grew because he used the words daily. Let's look at Elizabeth, a grandmother who wanted to practice English because her family lived in another country. She often spoke to her granddaughter on video calls. During these calls, she would use simple sentences such as, "How was your school today? Did you eat lunch? Show me your book." The granddaughter answered in English too. Over time, Elizabeth became more confident because she practiced English in real family conversations. Mark was a university student who practiced English with his roommate Thomas. Every evening before going to bed, they played a little game. Each person had to say 3 things about their day in English. For example, Mark said, "I studied biology today. I ate with my friends. I cleaned my room." Thomas said, "I went to the library. I wrote my assignment. I spoke with my professor." This short practice helped them grow without memorizing long lists of verbs. Sophia worked in an office. She practiced English by writing emails in simple English. Instead of writing in her native language, she would say, "Dear sir, I am sending the report. Please check it." At first, she made small mistakes, but after some weeks, her emails became more accurate. She learned grammar and vocabulary naturally by using them in real messages. George had a unique method. He practiced English by labeling items in his house. He put small pieces of paper with English words on them. On his table, he placed a note that said table. On his fridge, he placed a note that said fridge. On his door, he placed a note that said door. Every day when he walked around his house, he said the words aloud. After some time, he remembered them naturally. Emily improved her English by reading bedtime prayers and short moral stories in English. Every night before sleeping, she read 1 page and then repeated some sentences aloud. She didn't memorize, but she repeated the same kind of words every evening, and slowly they stayed in her mind. Henry was a gardener. He used English by describing his work in simple sentences. He said, "I am watering the flowers. I am cutting the grass. I am planting new seeds. The tree is tall." This daily habit gave him strong practice. He was not memorizing. He was living with the language. Jessica had a friend named Claire who was also learning English. They created a small practice group with 2 other classmates. Once a week, they met in the park and spoke only in English for 30 minutes. They talked about simple things like the weather, what they ate, or what they did at school. Each person helped the others with mistakes. By doing this, they improved together. Now let's think about Adam, a businessman. He needed English for his meetings. Instead of learning hundreds of words, he practiced the exact sentences he needed. He would say, "Can we start the meeting now? Please look at this report. Do you agree with this idea?" By practicing real sentences for his work, he improved without wasting time on memorization. Charlotte was a nurse in training. She practiced English by repeating instructions to herself. She said, "Take this medicine. Sit here, please. Drink some water." These were sentences she often used with patients, so they became automatic. She did not need to memorize grammar books. Oliver, a school student, practiced English with his cousin Mary. They liked playing board games and they agreed to speak only in English during the game. They used phrases like, "It is your turn," "I win," "You lose," "Move 2 steps." Without memorization, they learned real expressions through play. Another example is Richard, who worked in a factory. During his lunch breaks, he practiced English with his colleague James. They asked each other simple questions. Richard said, "What did you eat for lunch?" James answered, "I ate rice and chicken." James asked, "What will you do after work?" Richard answered, "I will go home and rest." These short exchanges helped them both improve. Caroline was a shop assistant. She practiced English by greeting her customers politely. She would say, "Good morning, how can I help you? Do you want this in a bag? Thank you, have a nice day." Because she repeated these sentences every day, they became part of her natural speech. Benjamin practiced English by keeping a small diary in his pocket. Whenever he learned a new word in context, he wrote one short sentence with it. For example, when he learned the word rain, he wrote, "It is raining today." He didn't memorize long lists, only meaningful sentences. Hannah was a teacher. She practiced English by telling short stories to her colleagues during breaks. She would say, "Yesterday I went shopping. I saw an old friend. We drank tea together." This practice helped her use past tense naturally without memorization. Nathan improved his English by helping his younger sister with homework. He asked her questions in English such as, "What is this picture? What color is this ball? How many apples do you see?" Teaching someone else gave him daily practice. Grace had a good method. She practiced English while cooking with her husband. She would say, "Cut the tomatoes, wash the rice, bring the salt." By speaking in English while cooking, they both learned new verbs naturally. Patrick, who wanted to learn English for travel, practiced by pretending he was at the airport. He would say aloud, "Where is the ticket counter? How much is the ticket? What time is the flight?" By practicing realistic sentences, he prepared himself well without memorizing. Abigail, a college student, practiced with her group of friends. They made a small agreement to speak in English for 10 minutes before class every morning. They spoke about their homework, about teachers, and about their weekend plans. It became a daily habit that improved their English step by step. Eleanor, a mother of 3 children, practiced by telling her children short instructions in English. She would say, "Please sit down, open your book, drink your milk, close the door." Because she repeated them every day, both she and her children improved. Samuel practiced English at work. He was a waiter in a restaurant. He said sentences like, "What would you like to eat? Do you want water or juice? Here is your food. Thank you for coming." These sentences became natural because he used them with every customer. Isabella practiced by describing photographs. She would take a photo of her family and say, "This is my husband. He is wearing a blue shirt. This is my son. He is playing with a ball. This is my daughter. She is smiling." This practice helped her build vocabulary without memorizing. Jacob, a schoolboy, practiced English with his best friend Daniel during walks home from school. They described what they saw. Jacob said, "That man is selling fruits." Daniel said, "The bus is full of people." They turned their walk into a practice session. Victoria practiced English by reading recipes. She read simple cooking instructions in English like, Add sugar, mix the flour, bake for 10 minutes. Then she repeated the steps aloud while cooking. She learned cooking vocabulary naturally. Edward improved his English by playing with his son. While building blocks, he said in English, "Put the block here. Take the red block. Build a tower." His son enjoyed the game and Edward practiced without memorization. Lily, a high school student, practiced with her cousin Grace during family gatherings. They spoke in English about school, about homework, and about future plans. At first, the family laughed, but after some time, they admired how much their English improved. Andrew practiced English while doing exercises. He counted aloud in English. 1, 2, 3, 4. He said, "I am running, I am jumping, I am stretching." These small sentences made English part of his daily routine. Olivia was a college student who wanted to improve her English speaking. She made a small rule for herself. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror and spoke 3 sentences about her plan for the day. She said things like, "I will go to the library. I will meet my friend Anna. I will study for the exam." By saying these sentences every day, she felt more confident. She did not memorize. She only practiced real words that she needed. Arthur worked in a small office. He decided to practice English with his colleague Philip during tea breaks. They asked each other easy questions such as, "Do you have much work today?" And "What will you do in the evening?" Because they did this every day, their speaking improved little by little. They never tried to learn big grammar books, but they could communicate better after some months. Deborah was a housewife. She liked to sit with her children in the afternoon and ask them simple questions in English. She said, "What color is this toy? How many pencils are on the table? Who is in this picture?" The children answered in English, and Deborah also practiced her English in this way. Peter was a high school student who liked playing football with his school friends. During the game, he started using English commands. He shouted, "Pass the eye," "Ball," "Run fast," "Kick the ball," "Good goal." His friends also repeated the same words. By turning playtime into practice, Peter and his friends learned new action verbs naturally. Helen had a sister named Margaret. They both wanted to learn English. In the evening, they cooked dinner together and spoke only in English while cooking. Helen said, "Wash the tomatoes, cut the onions, put salt in the pan." Margaret followed the instructions and replied, "I am cutting the onions now." They learned kitchen vocabulary without writing or memorizing anything. Stephen was a farmer. He used English to talk to his son about their animals. He said, "The cow is eating grass. The sheep are sleeping. The chicken is in the yard." His son repeated the same sentences. Both of them improved little by little. Rebecca liked gardening in her free time. She practiced English by describing what she was doing. She said, I am planting flowers. I am watering the plants. The soil is soft. The sun is bright." She did this every morning. After some weeks, she could describe her garden easily in English. Martin was a shopkeeper. When customers came to his shop, he tried to use small English phrases like, "Welcome, do you need help? This item is cheap, thank you." These sentences were short, but he used them daily, so they became natural to him. Anna was a school student. She practiced English by talking with her cousin George after school. They sat in the yard and talked about their teachers, their classes, and their games. George asked, "Did you finish your homework?" Anna answered, "Yes, I finished it." In the afternoon. This habit improved their speaking without memorizing lists of verbs. Christopher was a university student. He liked reading short English stories before sleeping. After reading one story, he told it again in simple English. For example, if the story was about a boy and a dog, he said, "The boy went to the park. The dog ran fast. They played together." He learned to use past tense naturally this way. Grace was a young mother. She wanted to practice English while caring for her baby. She spoke to the baby in English. She said, "Sit down, drink milk, sleep now, wake up." The baby listened, and Grace repeated these sentences every day. Her English became stronger without memorization. Daniel was a student who liked drawing pictures. He practiced English by describing his drawings. He said, "This is a tree. The tree is tall. There is a bird in the tree. The sun is bright." By connecting English to his drawings, he remembered the words easily. Sophia was a college teacher. She practiced English by telling her husband about her work in English every evening. She said, "I taught my class today. The students were active. I checked the homework." By talking about her real life, she improved her grammar naturally. Michael worked in a bank. He practiced English by asking his colleague Robert small questions in English. He said, "Do you have the file? Can you check this number? Can we meet?" Later, because these sentences were useful for work, they became natural to him. Patricia practiced English with her best friend Rachel. They called each other on the phone every night and spoke in English for 10 minutes. Sometimes they made mistakes, but they laughed and corrected each other. After a few months, their speaking became smooth. Edward liked walking in the park in the evening. While walking, he described everything in English. He said, "The children are playing, the old man is sitting, the dog is running, the flowers are red." This daily routine helped him practice without stress. Sarah was a grandmother who lived with her family. Every evening, she asked her grandchildren questions in English. She said, "What did you learn today? Did you eat your lunch? Who is your best friend?" The grandchildren answered in English, and Sarah also practiced with them. Philip was a student who wanted to remember new words. He used a simple method. When he learned a new word like chair, he made a small sentence. I'm sitting on a chair. When he learned bread, he said, "I eat bread for breakfast." By using words in sentences, he remembered them naturally. Charlotte practiced English with her husband during dinner. She said, "Please pass the rice. Please bring the spoon. The food is good." By speaking in English during mealtime, they learned naturally. Henry was a driver. He practiced English when he picked up passengers. He asked them, "Where are you going? Do you want to stop here? Thank you very much." These daily sentences became easy for him. Caroline worked as a teacher. She improved her English by telling her class short instructions in English. She said, "Open your book, write the answer, listen to me, stand up." She repeated these sentences many times every day. David practiced English with his younger brother during their walk to school. He asked, "What is in your bag?" His brother answered, "My book is in my bag." David asked, "What will we do after school?" His brother answered, "We will play." These short talks helped both of them. Margaret liked visiting her neighbor Susan. They decided to practice English together during tea time. Margaret asked, "How is your family?" Susan answered, "They are fine. My son is studying." By practicing with each other, they became more confident. Anthony worked in a small restaurant. He practiced English with his customers. He asked, "Do you want chicken or beef? Do you want tea or water? Please wait for 5 minutes." He improved because he used the same words every day. Linda practiced English with her children during bedtime. She said, "Close your eyes, sleep well. Tomorrow we will go to school." These sentences were short but useful, and she repeated them every night. Andrew practiced English by talking to his father about farming. He said, "The field is green, the cow is strong, the corn is growing." His father replied in English, "Too." This practice connected language with real life. Victoria practiced English with her cousin William. They wrote small notes to each other in English. William wrote, "I will meet you at 4." Victoria wrote, "Bring your book." This habit helped them remember useful sentences. Samuel was a builder. He practiced English with his team. He said, "Lift the stone, put it here, hold the wood." These commands were simple, but he used them daily, so he improved. Elizabeth practiced English with her son before school. She asked, "Do you have your pen? Do you have your book? Are you ready?" These daily questions gave her practice. Jonathan practiced English during shopping. He asked the shopkeeper, "How much is this? Can I have 2? Do you have bread?" These sentences became natural for him. When James was younger, he often visited his grandmother's house after school. His grandmother lived only a short walk away, so he and his sister Anna went there almost every afternoon. The house was small but very warm, and it always smelled like fresh bread. Their grandmother used to give them a snack before they started their homework. Sometimes it was a sandwich with cheese, and other times it was biscuits with tea. Anna always liked the biscuits more, but James preferred sandwiches. They both sat at the wooden table in the kitchen, telling stories about what happened during school. Their grandmother listened with interest, asking questions and laughing at the funny parts. One day, James told her about a spelling test. He said he studied hard, but he was nervous before the teacher gave the paper. Anna jumped in and said she was not nervous at all. Their grandmother smiled and reminded them that everyone learns differently and that it was fine to feel nervous sometimes. After finishing their snacks, they took out their books and wrote their homework, while their grandmother worked on knitting a scarf. This daily routine gave them comfort and made them feel close as a family. Another story comes from Daniel, who often went to the park with his friends after school. The park was not very big, but it had a football field and swings. Daniel loved football, so he and his friends Tom and Oliver brought a ball with them every time. They made small teams and played until it became dark. Sometimes they argued about goals or fouls, but they always solved it quickly. Daniel enjoyed these afternoons because he felt free and happy while running on the grass. One weekend, Daniel invited his cousin Emily to join the game. Emily was younger, but she wanted to try playing football too. At first, the boys thought she might not play well, but Emily surprised them with her energy. She ran fast and even scored a goal. Everyone cheered, and Daniel was proud of his cousin. After the game, they all went to a small shop near the park to buy cold drinks. The shop owner knew the children well and always asked how school was going. Daniel and his friends answered politely and then laughed together as they walked home. At school, Sarah had a close friend named Claire. They sat next to each other in class and shared books when one of them forgot to bring theirs. Sarah liked reading stories while Claire liked solving math problems. They helped each other with homework, and this made their friendship stronger. On Fridays, they often walked home together, talking about their plans for the weekend. Sarah usually planned to visit her grandparents, while Claire wanted to spend time drawing. One day, Sarah forgot her lunchbox at home. She felt embarrassed. But Claire noticed and quietly shared her food. She gave Sarah half of her sandwich and a piece of fruit. Sarah was grateful and promised to return the favor. Later that week, Sarah brought an extra snack and shared it with Claire. These small acts made them both feel cared for. Their teacher noticed how kind they were and praised them in front of the class. In another family story, Thomas helped his father fix things around the house. His father liked teaching him simple tasks, such as tightening screws, painting a wall, or changing a light bulb. Thomas enjoyed learning these skills because they made him feel responsible. One Saturday, the door lock in their living room broke, and Thomas's father asked him to help repair it. They took out the tools, and Thomas held the screws while his father explained each step. When they finished, the lock worked again, and Thomas felt proud. Later, his mother brought them lemonade as a thank you for their work. Meanwhile, his younger sister Lucy helped their mother in the kitchen. She was not very good at cooking yet, but she liked mixing ingredients. On the same day, she helped her mother bake a cake. She cracked the eggs into a bowl, stirred the flour, and tried to spread the icing on top. The cake was not perfect, but everyone in the family enjoyed it. Thomas and Lucy laughed about how the icing was uneven, and their parents praised them, both for helping. At school, David had a teacher named Mr. Brown, who often told the class short stories to explain lessons. One day, when teaching history, Mr. Brown spoke about a king who had to make difficult choices. David listened carefully because he liked the way the story made history feel alive. After class, David told his friend William that he wanted to read more about kings and queens. William replied that he preferred learning about science, but he liked hearing stories too. This difference made their conversations interesting because they shared knowledge with each other. Another memory comes from a birthday party. Rachel was invited to her neighbor's party, and she was excited to go. She picked out a small gift with her mother, wrapped it in colorful paper, and carried it carefully. At the party, Rachel joined other children to play games like hide and seek and musical chairs. She laughed a lot when one of the boys hid under a table and forgot to stay quiet. After the games, they all sat at the table to eat cake. Rachel enjoyed the moment, especially when everyone sang the birthday song. At the end of the party, Rachel and the other guests received small bags with sweets. She went home happy, telling her parents about all the fun she had. Back at home, life was sometimes busy. Mark, a high school student, had many assignments. He often sat at his desk for hours writing essays and solving problems. His mother reminded him to take breaks and drink water. Sometimes his younger brother Peter came in and asked him to play, but Mark explained he needed to finish his work. first. On weekends, though, he made sure to spend time with Peter. They played board games or rode their bikes around the neighborhood. This balance between study and play helped Mark feel less stressed. Another time, their cousin Grace came to stay for a few days. Grace was the same age as Peter, and they quickly became good playmates. They built a small tent in the living room using blankets and chairs. They pretended it was a castle and that they were protecting it from dragons. Mark smiled as he watched them play, remembering when he was younger and liked pretending in the same way. Their parents took pictures of the blanket castle, and everyone laughed at how creative it looked. In another story, Oliver's family planned a picnic in the countryside. They packed sandwiches, fruit, juice, and a blanket. The weather was sunny and the air felt fresh. When they arrived, Oliver and his sister Mia ran across the grass while their parents set up the picnic. They played tag, picked small flowers, and chased butterflies. After eating, their father taught them how to fly a kite. At first it was difficult, but soon the kite rose high in the sky. Mia held the string and shouted with excitement. Oliver's mother took pictures, and later, they all lay down on the blanket, watching clouds pass by. That evening, Oliver felt tired but happy, thinking it was one of the best family days. Another everyday moment happened with Emma and her friend Sophie. They were both in the same science class, and one day they had a small group project. They had to build a simple model of the solar system. Emma brought colored paper, Sophie brought glue and scissors, and another classmate brought cardboard. They worked together in the library, cutting circles and sticking them to represent planets. It took time, but they enjoyed talking and laughing as they worked. When they presented the project, their teacher said they did well. Emma and Sophie felt proud because they had done it as a team. There was also a story about Michael, who lived in a neighborhood where many children gathered in the evenings. They played simple games like hopscotch, skipping rope, or running races. Michael enjoyed these moments because everyone in the street joined in. His best friend Henry lived next door, and they often teamed up in the games. One evening, Henry fell and scraped his knee. Michael quickly helped him stand up and took him home. Henry's mother cleaned the wound and thanked Michael for being a caring friend. This made Michael feel good because friendship was important to him. At school, teachers often gave group activities. In one class, Lily and her classmates had to act out a short play. Lily was shy, but her teacher encouraged her to try. She practiced her lines at home with her brother, who helped her remember the words. On the day of the play, she spoke clearly, and her classmates clapped. Lily felt more confident afterward and thanked her brother for his support. This small event showed her that when you spend time with your family, you often hear small stories that make you think. For example, Daniel's grandmother always tells him about her childhood. She explains how life was slower and how people walked everywhere because cars were not common in her small town. Daniel listens carefully, and sometimes he asks her simple questions like, "Did you go to school every day?" Or, "What games did you play with your friends?" His grandmother answers with patience, and Daniel learns not only about his family history, but also about daily life in the past. These stories help him understand values like patience, respect, and gratitude. One Saturday afternoon, Sarah invited her cousin Emily to her house. They sat in the living room and talked about school. Emily said she had a new teacher who always asked the class to work in groups. She explained that at first she did not like working in groups because she felt shy, but later she realized it was helpful. When she worked with her classmates, she learned new words and understood ideas more quickly. Sarah agreed and said that teamwork can make learning easier. Both of them decided to study together on weekends. They thought that by reading stories and asking each other questions, they could improve their English and do better in school. At the same time, Michael was spending the weekend with his best friend David. They went to the park near their neighborhood. The park had a playground, a football field, and some benches where families often sat. Michael and David brought a football and they played for almost an hour. While playing, they laughed and made simple jokes. After the game, they sat down under a tree and drank water. Michael said he wanted to become stronger, so he planned to exercise every day. David encouraged him and said that good health is very important. They promised to remind each other to stay active and eat healthy food. Later that evening, Emma helped her mother in the kitchen. They were preparing dinner for the whole family. Her mother asked her to cut vegetables while she cooked rice and chicken. Emma asked her mother, "Why do you always add so many vegetables?" Her mother smiled and explained that vegetables are full of vitamins and help the body stay strong. Emma realized that eating a balanced meal is part of caring for herself. After dinner, the whole family sat together at the table. They talked about their day, shared jokes, and enjoyed the food. It was a simple moment, but it made everyone feel connected. On Sunday morning, Oliver had a plan to meet his school friend Daniel at the library. They wanted to prepare for their upcoming exam. The library was quiet, and many students were reading. Oliver and Daniel found a table near the window. They opened their notebooks and began reviewing their notes. Sometimes Oliver read aloud, and Daniel repeated the sentences. This practice helped both of them improve pronunciation. After studying for an hour, they took a short break. Oliver said he felt tired, but Daniel reminded him that practice brings results. They returned to their books with more focus and ended the session with a small quiz that Daniel had prepared. Both of them felt proud because they answered most of the questions correctly. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Anna was spending time with her little brother, Thomas. He had homework, but did not want to do it. Anna sat beside him and said, "Let us do it together." She read the first question and explained it slowly. Thomas started to understand, and soon he was answering on his own. When they finished, Thomas smiled and said, "Thank you, Anna." She hugged him and said that helping family members is part of love. Thomas promised to try harder with his homework next time. Anna felt happy because she supported her brother in a small but important way. In the afternoon, James visited his neighbor, Peter. Peter's father had a small garden, and they were planting flowers. James watched as Peter's father dug holes and carefully placed seeds inside. James asked if he could help, and Peter's father agreed. Together they watered the soil and covered the seeds with earth. Peter said he enjoyed gardening because it made him feel calm. James agreed and said that growing plants teaches patience. They decided to visit the garden every week to see how the plants were growing. It was a new experience for James, and he was excited to learn more about nature. On Monday, school started again. Sophia woke up early and prepared her bag. She had English class that morning and she wanted to be ready. Her teacher, Mr. Smith, began the class by asking each student to introduce themselves with one new sentence they had learned. Sophia said, "I enjoy reading books with my family." The teacher praised her for using correct grammar and encouraged other students to try similar sentences. During the lesson, they practiced conversations about daily life. Sophia learned phrases like, "How are you today?" and "Can you help me with this?" She felt more confident speaking in front of her classmates. At the end of the lesson, Mr. Smith reminded everyone that daily practice builds confidence. That same evening, William and his father went shopping. They visited a small supermarket near their home. William carried a list that his mother had prepared. He read aloud, "Milk, bread, eggs, rice, and apples." His father guided him to find the items in the aisles. William placed each item in the basket and checked it off the list. While shopping, his father explained how to compare prices and choose fresh fruits. William listened carefully and realized that shopping was not only about buying things, but also about learning responsibility. When they returned home, his mother thanked him for helping. William felt proud because he contributed to the family. The next day, Grace met her friend Olivia at the school cafeteria. They bought sandwiches and sat at a table together. Olivia said she had a funny story. She explained that her younger brother tried to cook breakfast but burned the toast. Grace laughed and said she once did the same when she was younger. They talked about small mistakes and how they teach important lessons. Olivia said her brother learned to be careful with the toaster, and Grace said mistakes are part of growing. Both girls enjoyed their meal and continued their day with smiles. In the afternoon, Henry joined a group project with his classmates. They were working on a presentation about healthy habits. Henry suggested that they include exercise, healthy food, and enough sleep. His friend Robert said they should also add drinking water. Together, they divided the work. Henry prepared pictures, Robert wrote the text, and their friend Jack practiced speaking. When the presentation day came, they stood in front of the class and spoke with confidence. The teacher praised their teamwork and said they set a good example. Henry felt proud because he contributed to the success of the group. That evening, Lily visited her Aunt Mary. They sat in the living room and talked about family news. Mary told her about a family gathering planned for the next month. Lily became excited because she would see her cousins and uncles. Mary reminded her that family gatherings are not just about food, but about creating memories. Lily nodded and said she looked forward to playing games with her cousins. She also wanted to listen to the older family members tell stories. Mary said that family connections are like strong roots that give stability. Lily thought about this and realized how lucky she was to have a caring family. On Wednesday, Matthew was walking home from school with his friend Ethan. They talked about their homework and their favorite subjects. Ethan said he enjoyed science because he liked doing experiments. Matthew said he preferred English because he liked reading stories. They decided to help each other by sharing their strengths. Ethan would explain science lessons to Matthew, and Matthew would help Ethan with English reading. This plan made them both happy because they could learn together. By the time they reached home, they already felt more confident about their studies. That night, Charlotte and her mother prepared for a small family celebration. It was her father's birthday. They decorated the dining room with balloons and placed a cake on the table. When her father arrived home, everyone shouted, "Happy birthday." He was surprised and very happy. They sang together, cut the cake, and enjoyed a meal. Charlotte gave her father a handmade card that said, "I love you, Dad." He hugged her and said it was the best gift he could receive. Charlotte realized that small gestures of love create strong bonds in a family. The following morning, Jacob went jogging with his cousin Andrew. They woke up early and went to the park. The air was fresh and few people were around. Jacob said jogging made him feel energetic, and Andrew agreed. They jogged slowly, talking about school and future plans. Jacob said he wanted to study engineering, while Andrew said he was interested in medicine. Both of them promised to work hard and support each other. After jogging, they stretched and drank water. Jacob felt that starting the day with exercise and good conversation was a healthy habit. Samuel liked visiting his uncle's house on weekends. His uncle had a small garden behind the house. Samuel enjoyed helping water the plants and pick fresh vegetables. One Saturday, his uncle asked him to plant some carrots. Samuel followed the instructions carefully. He dug small holes, placed the seeds inside, and covered them with soil. After finishing, his uncle smiled and said, "Well done, Samuel." Samuel felt proud because he helped grow something useful. He learned that small actions every day can make a difference. Meanwhile, his cousin Anna joined them. She helped their aunt clean the windows. Anna wiped the glass carefully and asked questions about how to do it better. Her aunt explained the best way to clean without leaving marks. Anna practiced slowly and felt happy when she saw the windows shine. After their work, they all sat on the porch, drank water, and enjoyed the cool air. Samuel and Anna talked about school and shared small stories about their friends. At school, Emily and her friend Chloe worked on a science experiment. They needed to test how plants grow in different conditions. Emily brought soil and pots, while Chloe brought seeds. They watered the seeds every day and wrote notes about changes they noticed. One day they saw small sprouts coming out of the soil. Emily was excited and said, "Look, Chloe, they are growing." Chloe smiled and replied, "Yes, they are healthy." They learned that patience and care make results appear. Michael spent time with his neighbor Jack. Jack had a small puppy named Max. Michael enjoyed playing with Max in the yard. They threw a small ball, and Max ran quickly to catch it. Sometimes the puppy tripped and fell, and they laughed. Michael learned to give Max water and help him rest when he got tired. He enjoyed spending time outside and taking care of the little puppy. At home, Olivia helped her father organize the garage. They moved boxes, cleaned shelves, and placed tools in order. Olivia asked questions about which tool to use for different jobs. Her father explained slowly and let her try some tasks. By the end, the garage looked neat, and Olivia felt satisfied. Her father thanked her for helping. They both drank water and talked about plans for the weekend. Daniel and his friend Matthew often met in the park to practice football. They ran together and kicked the ball back and forth. Sometimes they made small teams with other children in the park. Daniel said he liked playing with friends because it made him happy and active. Matthew agreed and said that practicing every day helped him improve. They also talked about school lessons while resting between games. One afternoon, Sarah and her younger brother Tom helped their mother clean the living room. Tom dusted the shelves while Sarah vacuumed the carpet. Their mother instructed them step by step. She said, "Make sure the books are in order. Put the cushions back properly." Sarah and Tom worked together and finished the room quickly. Their mother smiled and said, "Thank you both. You did well." They felt happy because they helped the family. At school, Henry and his friend Robert worked on a history project. They needed to write about famous inventors. Henry researched Alexander Graham Bell, and Robert wrote notes about Thomas Edison. They combined their work and made a small presentation. When they presented in class, their teacher praised them. Henry felt proud because he contributed useful information. He realized that teamwork makes learning easier. Emily and her sister Lucy spent a quiet afternoon reading books. Lucy read a story aloud while Emily listened carefully. Sometimes Emily asked, "What does this word mean?" Lucy explained using simple sentences. They took turns reading and helped each other understand new words. By the end of the afternoon, both sisters learned several new words and remembered them because they used them in sentences. James visited his friend Oliver after school. They sat in the garden and discussed their plans for the weekend. Oliver said he wanted to ride his bicycle, and James said he wanted to go to the park. They agreed to go together. While walking to the park, they talked about homework and what they learned in class. At the park, they played football and ran around. Both friends felt happy because they spent the afternoon together and enjoyed outdoor activities. In another story, Charlotte helped her grandmother prepare a small dinner. She chopped vegetables and set the table. Her grandmother cooked rice and chicken while explaining the steps to Charlotte. They worked together quietly. Charlotte learned new cooking words and understood the process better. After dinner, they washed the dishes together. Charlotte felt useful because she helped her grandmother and learned new things. Matthew and his cousin Ethan liked drawing. One afternoon, they sat at the table with colored pencils and paper. Matthew drew a house and Ethan drew a tree next to it. They described their drawings to each other in simple English sentences. Matthew said, "This is a big house. The tree is tall." Ethan replied, "The sun is bright. The grass is green." By talking about their drawings, they practiced English naturally and had fun. Sophia spent time with her friend Hannah after school. They studied for an English test together. Sophia read sentences aloud, and Hannah repeated them. Sometimes they corrected each other gently. They also asked questions like, "What does this word mean?" and "How do you say this in English?" This practice helped them improve their vocabulary and pronunciation without memorizing lists. At home, William and his younger brother Peter played a small board game. The game required them to count spaces and answer simple questions. "Peter," asked William to explain the rules again. William explained slowly and repeated examples. By playing together, they practiced counting, reading, and speaking English in a natural way. Both brothers enjoyed the activity and laughed often. James helped his mother water the plants in the backyard. He picked up a small watering can and poured water carefully. His mother explained that the flowers need water every day. James checked the soil and made sure it was moist but not too wet. After finishing, they sat on the bench and admired the plants. James felt proud because he helped them grow. At school, Olivia and her friend Rachel had a group activity. They needed to make a small poster about cleanliness. Olivia wrote the title, and Rachel drew pictures. They asked each other questions like, where should I draw this? And what color should I use? When they finished, they presented it in class. Their teacher praised them for working together and making a clear poster. Olivia felt happy because she enjoyed working with her friend. Meanwhile, Daniel helped his younger sister Mia with her homework. She needed to practice writing numbers. Daniel showed her how to write carefully and slowly. Mia followed his instructions and asked questions when she did not understand. Daniel answered patiently. After finishing, Mia said, "Thank you, Daniel." Daniel felt satisfied because he helped his sister learn. One weekend, Michael and his father went to the grocery store together. Michael carried the shopping list and checked each item. They bought vegetables, fruits, milk, and bread. Michael learned how to compare prices and choose fresh food. When they returned home, his father thanked him for helping. Michael felt proud because he contributed to the family and learned new skills. In the evening, Sarah and her mother prepared a small snack for the family. They cut fruits and made sandwiches. Sarah asked questions about different fruits and their names. Her mother explained slowly, and Sarah repeated the words aloud. After finishing, they served the snacks to the family. Everyone enjoyed the food, and Sarah felt happy because she learned new words and helped her mother. At school, Henry and his friend Jack practiced reading aloud. Henry read a short paragraph, and Jack repeated the sentences. They corrected each other gently. Sometimes they asked, "How do you say this word?" or "What does this mean?" By helping each other, they improved their pronunciation and understanding. Meanwhile, Emily and her cousin Grace went for a walk in the neighborhood. They talked about their day and shared small stories. Emily said she enjoyed reading books, and Grace said she liked painting. They discussed what they learned in school and promised to meet again for a small study session. Walking together made them feel relaxed and happy. Charlotte and her younger brother Lucas played with building blocks. They built small towers and houses. Charlotte described what she was building in simple sentences. Lucas repeated her sentences and added small ideas. By speaking and playing, they practiced English naturally. Both siblings enjoyed working together and felt proud of their creations. Oliver helped his mother clean the living room. He dusted the shelves while his mother vacuumed. He asked questions about what to clean next, and she explained patiently. After finishing, they arranged the furniture neatly. Oliver felt happy because he helped the family and learned to be responsible. Jacob liked visiting his aunt's house every Sunday. His aunt had a small vegetable garden in the backyard. Jacob enjoyed helping her pull out weeds and water the plants. One Sunday, his aunt asked him to plant some tomato seeds. Jacob dug small holes and placed the seeds carefully in the soil. After finishing, his aunt smiled and said, "You did well, Jacob." Jacob felt proud because he helped grow something useful. He realized that small efforts each day can make a difference. Meanwhile, his cousin Lucy helped her grandmother cook lunch. Lucy chopped vegetables while her grandmother stirred the pot. Lucy asked questions like, "Which spice should I use?" And her grandmother explained slowly. After finishing, they set the table together. Lucy felt happy because she helped the family and learned new cooking words. Her grandmother praised her and said that practice makes learning easier. At school, Ethan and his friend Liam worked on a group project about animals. Ethan researched lions while Liam wrote about elephants. They combined their notes and made a small poster. When they presented in class, their teacher complimented them. Ethan felt proud because he contributed useful information. He realized that teamwork makes learning easier and more enjoyable. Michael spent time with his younger brother Oliver in the evening. They played a small game where they counted objects in the room. Michael asked, "How many books are on the shelf?" And Oliver counted carefully. They switched roles, and Oliver asked Michael to count pencils in a box. By playing, they practiced numbers and English words in a natural way. Both brothers enjoyed the game and laughed often. At home, Sarah helped her father clean the living room. She picked up toys and books while her father vacuumed the carpet. Sarah asked, "Where should I put this book?" And her father explained. After finishing, they sat together and drank water. Sarah felt satisfied because she helped the family and learned responsibility. One afternoon, Daniel and his friend Nathan went to the park. They brought a football and played until it became dark. Daniel said he liked playing football because it made him feel strong. Nathan agreed and said that practicing every day helps improve skills. They also talked about school and shared small stories. After playing, they walked home together, happy and tired. Meanwhile, Emily and her friend Sophie studied English together. Emily read short sentences aloud, and Sophie repeated them. They asked each other questions like, "What does this word mean?" or "How do you say this in English?" This practice helped them improve their vocabulary and speaking skills without memorizing long lists of words. At home, Olivia helped her mother prepare dinner. She chopped vegetables and set the table. Her mother cooked rice and chicken while explaining the steps. Olivia learned new words like stir, slice, and boil. After finishing, they served the food to the family. Olivia felt happy because she practiced English and helped her mother. James visited his friend Thomas in the afternoon. They sat in the garden and talked about their day. Thomas said he enjoyed reading books, and James said he liked drawing. They shared small stories about school and promised to meet again on the weekend. Talking about their daily life helped them practice English naturally. Meanwhile, Charlotte helped her younger brother Lucas with his homework. Lucas had to write simple sentences, and Charlotte read the instructions aloud. She showed him how to form sentences correctly. After finishing, Lucas smiled and said, "Thank you, Charlotte." Charlotte felt proud because she helped her brother learn. At school, Henry and his friend Jack prepared a poster for a class project. Henry wrote the title, and Jack drew pictures. They discussed colors and shapes using simple English sentences. When they presented it in class, their teacher praised their teamwork. Henry felt happy because he learned new words and contributed to the group. Michael and his father went shopping together. Michael carried the shopping list and checked each item. They bought vegetables, fruits, milk, and bread. Michael learned how to choose fresh products and compare prices. When they returned home, his father thanked him for helping. Michael felt proud because he contributed to the family. Meanwhile, Anna and her cousin Grace walked in the neighborhood. They talked about school and shared small stories. Anna said she liked painting, and Grace said she liked reading. They planned to meet again for a small study session. Walking together made them feel relaxed and happy. William and his younger brother Peter played a small board game at home. The game required counting spaces and answering questions. Peter asked William to explain the rules again. William explained slowly and gave examples. By playing together, they practiced numbers, reading, and speaking English naturally. Both brothers enjoyed the activity. James helped his mother water the plants in the backyard. He carefully poured water over the flowers. His mother explained that the plants need water every day. James checked the soil to make sure it was moist. After finishing, they sat on the bench and admired the plants. James felt proud because he helped them grow. At school, Olivia and her friend Rachel worked on a group project about cleanliness. Olivia wrote the title, and Rachel drew pictures. They asked each other questions like, "Where should I draw this?" and "What color should I use?" When finished, they presented it in class. The teacher praised them for working together. Olivia felt happy because she enjoyed collaborating with her friend. Meanwhile, Daniel helped his younger sister Mia with her homework. She needed to practice writing numbers. Daniel showed her carefully how to write each number. Mia asked questions when she did not understand. Daniel answered patiently. After finishing, Mia said, "Thank you, Daniel." Daniel felt satisfied because he helped his sister. One weekend, Michael and his father went to the grocery store. Michael carried the shopping list and checked each item. They bought vegetables, fruits, milk, and bread. Michael learned how to compare prices and pick fresh food. When they returned home, his father thanked him for helping. Michael felt proud because he contributed to the family. In the evening, Sarah and her mother prepared a snack for the family. They cut fruits and made sandwiches. Sarah asked about different fruit names, and her mother explained slowly. Sarah repeated the words aloud. After finishing, they served the snack. Everyone enjoyed it, and Sarah felt happy because she learned new words and helped her mother. At school, Henry and his friend Jack practiced reading aloud. Henry read a short paragraph, and Jack repeated the sentences. They corrected each other gently. Sometimes they asked, "How do you say this word?" or "What does this mean?" By helping each other, they improved pronunciation and understanding. Meanwhile, Emily and her cousin Grace went for a walk. They talked about their day and shared small stories. Emily said she liked reading books, and Grace said she liked painting. They discussed school and planned a study session. Walking together made them feel relaxed. Charlotte and her younger brother Lucas played with building blocks. They built small towers and houses. Charlotte described what she built in simple sentences. Lucas repeated and added ideas. By speaking. While playing, they practiced English naturally. Both siblings enjoyed working together. Oliver helped his mother clean the living room. He dusted shelves while his mother vacuumed. He asked what to clean next, and she explained. After finishing, they arranged furniture neatly. Oliver felt happy because he helped the family and learned responsibility. At school, William and his friend Ethan worked on a craft project. They made a model of a tree using paper and glue. William cut the paper while Ethan glued the parts. They discussed colors and shapes in simple English sentences. By doing the project together, they practiced vocabulary and teamwork. Ethan liked visiting his grandmother every weekend. His grandmother lived in a small house near a river. Ethan enjoyed helping her carry small items from one room to another. One Saturday, his grandmother asked him to help clean the living room. Ethan wiped the tables while his grandmother dusted the shelves. He asked questions about which cloth to use, and his grandmother explained carefully. After finishing, they both sat on the sofa and drank lemonade. Ethan felt proud because he helped his grandmother and learned simple household skills. Meanwhile, his sister Lucy helped their mother in the kitchen. They were preparing lunch. Lucy washed vegetables while her mother cooked rice. Lucy asked questions, like, which one should I cut first? And her mother explained slowly. They worked together quietly. After finishing, they set the table and served the food. Lucy felt happy because she helped her mother and learned new words. Her mother praised her for paying attention and being careful. At school, Daniel and his friend Oliver worked on a small art project. Daniel drew a house, and Oliver drew trees and flowers. They discussed colors and shapes using simple English sentences. When they finished, they displayed their artwork in the classroom. Their teacher praised them for teamwork. Daniel felt proud because he learned to cooperate with a friend and express ideas in English. Meanwhile, Michael spent time with his younger brother, Peter. They played a counting game using blocks. Michael asked Peter, "How many red blocks are there?" And Peter counted carefully. They switched roles, and Peter asked Michael to count green blocks. By playing, they practiced numbers and simple English words naturally. Both brothers laughed often and enjoyed the game. At home, Sarah helped her father clean the backyard. She picked up leaves while her father swept the ground. Sarah asked where to place the leaves, and her father explained. After finishing, they sat together and drank water. Sarah felt satisfied because she helped the family and learned responsibility. One afternoon, James visited his friend Matthew. They sat in the garden and shared stories about school. Matthew said he liked math, and James said he liked English. They discussed their favorite subjects and promised to study together on the weekend. Talking about school and daily life helped them practice English naturally. Meanwhile, Charlotte helped her younger brother Lucas with writing practice. Lucas needed to copy sentences from his notebook. Charlotte read each sentence aloud slowly. Lucas copied them carefully and asked questions when he did not understand. After finishing, Lucas smiled and said, "Thank you, Charlotte." Charlotte felt happy because she helped her brother improve his skills. At school, Henry and his friend Jack worked on a poster about healthy food. Henry wrote the title and Jack drew fruits and vegetables. They discussed colors and shapes using simple sentences. When they presented it in class, the teacher praised their teamwork. Henry felt proud because he contributed ideas and learned new vocabulary. Meanwhile, Emma helped her mother prepare dinner. She chopped vegetables and set the table. Her mother cooked chicken and rice while explaining the steps. Emma learned new words like stir, slice, and boil. After finishing, they served the food. Emma felt happy because she practiced English and helped her mother. James visited his friend Oliver in the afternoon. They walked to the nearby park. Oliver said he liked playing football, and James said he liked riding his bicycle. They decided to play football first. They ran across the field and kicked the ball to each other. After playing, they rested on a bench and drank water. James felt happy because he spent time with a friend and enjoyed being active. Meanwhile, Emily and her cousin Grace walked in the neighborhood. They talked about their day and shared small stories. Emily said she liked reading books, and Grace said she liked painting. They planned to meet again to study and play. Walking together helped them practice English naturally. William and his younger brother Peter played a board game at home. The game required counting spaces and answering questions. Peter asked William to explain the rules again. William explained slowly and gave examples. By playing together, they practiced numbers, reading, and speaking English. Both brothers enjoyed the activity and laughed often. James helped his mother water the plants in the backyard. He carefully poured water over the flowers. His mother explained that the plants need water every day. James checked the soil to make sure it was moist. After finishing, they sat on the bench and admired the plants. James felt proud because he helped them grow. At school, Olivia and her friend Rachel worked on a project about recycling. Olivia wrote the title and Rachel drew pictures. They discussed colors and where to place each picture. When they finished, they presented it in class. The teacher praised them for teamwork and clear explanations. Olivia felt happy because she enjoyed working with her friend. Meanwhile, Daniel helped his younger sister Mia with her homework. Mia needed to practice writing numbers. Daniel showed her carefully how to write each number. Mia asked questions when she did not understand. Daniel answered patiently. After finishing, Mia said, "Thank you, Daniel." Daniel felt satisfied because he helped his sister. One weekend, Michael and his father went to the grocery store. Michael carried the shopping list and checked each item. They bought vegetables, fruits, milk, and bread. Michael learned how to say, choose fresh food and compare prices. When they returned home, his father thanked him for helping. Michael felt proud because he contributed to the family. In the evening, Sarah and her mother prepared a small snack for the family. They cut fruits and made sandwiches. Sarah asked about fruit names, and her mother explained slowly. Sarah repeated the words aloud. After finishing, they served the snack. Everyone enjoyed it, and Sarah felt happy because she learned new words and helped her mother. At school, Henry and his friend Jack practiced reading aloud. Henry read a short paragraph, and Jack repeated the sentences. They corrected each other gently. Sometimes they asked, "How do you say this word?" Or, "What does this mean?" By helping each other, they improved pronunciation and understanding. Meanwhile, Emily and her cousin Grace went for a walk. They talked about their day and shared small stories. Emily said she liked reading books, and Grace said she liked painting. They discussed school and planned a study session. Walking together made them feel relaxed. Charlotte and her younger brother Lucas played with building blocks. They built small towers and houses. Charlotte described what she built in simple sentences. Lucas repeated and added ideas. By speaking, while playing, they practiced English naturally. Both siblings enjoyed working together. Oliver helped his mother clean the living room. He dusted shelves while his mother vacuumed. He asked what to clean next, and she explained. After finishing, they arranged furniture neatly. Oliver felt happy because he helped the family and learned responsibility. At school, William and his friend Ethan worked on a craft project. They made a model of a tree using paper and glue. William cut the paper while Ethan glued the parts. They discussed colors and shapes in simple English sentences. By doing the project together, they practiced vocabulary and teamwork. Sophia and her cousin Hannah spent the afternoon reading. Sophia read a story aloud and Hannah repeated the sentences. They asked questions about words they did not understand. By reading and asking questions, they improved vocabulary and pronunciation. They both enjoyed the activity and learned naturally. James helped his father wash the car on Sunday. He held the bucket while his father scrubbed the car. James asked questions about which sponge to use. His father explained slowly. After finishing, they dried the car with towels. James felt proud because he helped his father and learned new skills. Meanwhile, Michael and his friend David played basketball in the small court near their neighborhood. They passed the ball to each other and tried to score points. Michael said he liked playing because it made him strong and active. David agreed and said practicing every day helps improve skills. They also talked about school and shared stories. Charlotte and her sister Lily helped their mother organize the wardrobe. They folded clothes and placed them in order. Charlotte asked, "Where should I put these shirts?" And her mother explained. After finishing, they admired their work. Charlotte felt happy because she helped the family and learned new organization skills. At school, Henry and his friend Robert worked on a geography project. Henry wrote about rivers, and Robert wrote about mountains. They combined their notes and made a small presentation. When they presented in class, the teacher praised their teamwork. Henry felt proud because he contributed ideas and learned new words. Emma and her brother Lucas spent the evening drawing. Emma drew a small house, and Lucas drew a tree next to it. They described their drawings to each other in simple English sentences. By talking about their drawings, they practiced vocabulary and speaking naturally. Both enjoyed the activity. James and his friend Oliver visited the park in the afternoon. They played football and ran around. James said he liked being active, and Oliver agreed. They talked about school and shared small stories. After playing, they rested on a bench and drank water. Both friends felt happy and enjoyed the afternoon.